Alright, I want to talk about this rematch between Conor Benn and Cedrick Peynaud. Now, Cedrick Peynaud is one of those few fighters with a journeyman record who is far better than his record suggests. Now, I'm not making out Cedrick, I'm not making Cedrick Peynaud out to be a world beater or anything of the sort. But if you look at his technique, not only his technique, but if you look at how ambitious he is in a fight, this is unusual for someone with this type of record. And even if you look at how much ability he has in terms of the ability to fight out of the southpaw or the orthodox stance similarly well, again, you don't expect that from a guy with this type of record. Conor Benn came into this rematch expecting to outbox Cedrick Peynaud. Expecting, I guess, the same Cedrick Peynaud from the first fight, who was aggressive, who came forward from an orthodox stance and attacked. Now, he did get an aggressive Cedrick Peynaud, but he got a Cedrick Peynaud who came out hyper-aggressive from the opening bell, which maybe was a bit of a shock. And what was even more of a shock was the fact that he came out hyper-aggressive in a southpaw stance. That totally threw Conor Benn off. He said so after the fight. He said he'd been planning on landing certain punches and he couldn't land them because the guy came out southpaw, and he boxed southpaw for the entirety of the fight. Great tactics by Cedrick Peynaud, and it proves how seriously Peynaud was taking the fight. Conor Benn struggled again. He was getting hit a lot, not as much as he was in the first fight, and he never went down in this rematch, although there were times there when I felt like he was a punch or two away from going down. Not that he was ever seriously hurt, but the positions that Peynaud was putting him in just made me feel like Conor Benn's vulnerable to get clipped at this point and go down. But he held it together. He didn't really get involved in too much of a tear-up. He tried to stick to his boxing throughout the whole fight, even though at points it might have actually worked in his favor for him to exchange with Peynaud a bit and try to get his respect. That might have actually helped him. But be that as it may, he chose to continue to box for the most part on the back foot, stay out of the way. And, it was a good example of how a fighter often loses a lot of power when they're boxing on the back foot compared to when they're coming forward. Because Conor Benn was able to hurt and drop Cedrick Peynaud several times in the first fight. In this fight, I believe he did drop him from memory. I've forgotten already, but I swear he did drop Peynaud at least once in this rematch. But not as many times as he did in the first fight. And he never seemed to hurt him as much as he did in the first fight. And again, mainly down to the fact that he was boxing on the back foot and he was moving so much, so he wasn't able to get his body weight forward and plant his feet as much as he was in the first fight, so his punches just didn't have as much on them this time around. He did show, I think, good discipline. He showed good fitness, and he's going to learn a lot from this fight. It's not just the experience of coming through a tough fight physically, which Conor Benn will learn from. It's not just the tactical things he can learn from this type of experience, but it's the mental pressure that he would have gone through in the fight, which will stand him in good stead in the future. Because in the future, when he gets into a similar situation, he'll think to himself, I can make it through this. I've done it before. That kind of experience is invaluable. Conor Benn's only 21 years old, a very young man, very limited amateur career. A lot of people have talked about him being too small for welterweight, and he might be. One thing I did notice in this fight, I noticed at the weigh-in, Conor Benn to me looked a lot more ripped than he has previously. So perhaps he's growing into the welterweight division slowly but surely. But he certainly looked a lot more defined and more shredded. It's hard to tell because his body's, covered in tattoos, but I could kind of tell when I looked at him that he looked more shredded and more ripped than he has in some of his past fights. So maybe he's gaining more muscle. Maybe that's not the way forward. Maybe he just needs to lose weight, get down to 140 pounds to be more effective there. He certainly looked small next to Peynaud. That's one thing I can say. He looked very small next to Peynaud. So yeah, let me know what you felt about Conor Benn's performance. I think he is a mentally strong kid. Whether you rate him or not, and maybe you don't think he's going to go anywhere in this game, you have to rate his mental strength for someone that young, so inexperienced. He's definitely got his dad's fire in his belly. That's for sure. There's no question about that. He's got tremendous fire in his belly. He really is a chip off the old block when it comes to just his pure aggression and fighting instinct. He definitely has the same as his dad in that regard. But as far as the actual skills and ability in terms of fighting, the physical ability, the jury's out on that one for me. We have to see. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below and let me know how you felt about Conor Benn's performance against Cedrick Peynaud. It looked like it was going to be a close fight up until, I don't know, the late rounds, the mid to late rounds, when Conor Benn really started taking over, when Peynaud started gassing because he applied a lot of pressure early on. But in the end, he did come through. So, yeah, let me know how you feel about it, people. It's happening. I'm out.